Alright guys, this video is going to go through a bit of a tutorial build on our little SumoBot. So at the moment I've kind of mapped out what I'm imagining and envisioning this to be. So you can see I've got my sensors through the middle. I've gone with my wheels towards the front and decided to have the motors upright. So that gives me a little bit of space to be able to slide the batteries at the back here. I'll have my single wheel to help balance that out at the back there. So I'll try and have the width just under the 150. So if I want to try and build a little shell over the top, I can. And I've got then space to be able to work with that. So I'll make sure that I'll have a nice flat base at the bottom here to be able to attach these and the wheels to. Then I'm going to bring up two pieces through the middle here to attach my motors to, so there's going to be space on the outside here for these to attach. That won't be a problem. And then I'll need to make sure that those two middle pieces have a little support spot, and possibly I might try and do a little tab on the top and the front edge and the back edge to be able to help cradle that. And then I'll have a little cutout through those to be able to have this guy sitting in the middle. So then it's opening the space up to then have a nice flat front face across here, so that I can have a wedge that goes down to the bottom. My sensors will be at the front, and if I wanted to, I could replace that and close everything. So let's get started. The first step I'm going to go with is get my base plate done. So if I have a look, and I'm going to be jumping between the assembly to get a few of these initial dimensions, but that first one there, I can see those at 3mm. At the moment I've kind of got them spaced. I'll probably push those out almost as wide as I can. I think that'd be more useful for when it comes to setting up and working out where stuff is. So I've kind of got them out here. It also will keep that bolt out of the way, hopefully, of those motors. So if I have a look at my dimension there, I can click on those two, and then it gives me out of the bottom. So they're about 75, and I might just nudge it in so it's 70 wide. And then I've got those two at the back. So I'm going to start getting that. And these two, if I have a look, are about, if I pick that face and that face, about 40 wide. So let's start there. I'm going to come back over to my part studio. I'm going to choose a sketch on the top plane, and I'm just going to hide everything else by hitting P for that. So now N normal 2 takes me here. I'm going to start with my center point rectangle. So I'm going to start about a what do I want? 75. Let's go. I'm going to go back and check this because I don't want it too wide. So if I go from that edge to that edge, we got 90, because then we've got the wheels on the outside. So 90 wide is what I'm going to start with. D to go back in dimension, so 90 wide, and then let's go about 130, so I've got a little bit of play space on that front edge and where I'm going. So let's go in. I'm going to go 2 circles for those two. So I'm going to just drop that there. I want that 3mm, and then if I hover over that and bring it across, I get the dotted line across. And I'm just going to go E for equal, so I can make those two, because obviously the more dimensions I can not write on here, the better. Now they're good there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my symmetric and have those centered, and unfortunately I need a line there first. So line, hit Q to give me that center line, and while I'm at it, let's just add in a center line this way as well. I can get rid of him. So now I can do that symmetric. Select that one. Oh, that one and that one. So now they are symmetric. And if I go dimension, and on one of those about 70, let's go 70 apart and see how that looks. All right, so then that looks good. Then what I need is on the inside, so I'm going to add a couple more rectangles here. So I need a rectangle here, so I'm going to go, that needs to be 3 millimeters, and let's just go on a, 10 will work. And then what I want to do here is I'm going to add a dimension, so that was about 40 from that outside edge. So I'm going to go D again, and if I grab that, and I want him from there over to here, so notice I roll across that center line, it gives me the over to the halfway, so I wanted that to be 40, so now that gives me the opposite side to that as well. All right, so that's looking good. I'm going to probably want to, if I look across here, I'll probably need a couple of these little tabs. So let's bring that up that way. So I can go 1, 2, or maybe I've got a larger one in the center and then 2 bolts on the side. So let's go out to 30 for that tab. And I'm going to symmetric that for the moment. So grab that side with him. Oh, let's try that again. Symmetric. So Control Z if you need to undo things, those two. And I'm not sure why he's playing games like that, because we want him there. 3rd time's a charm. There we go. So that's now set up. Let's just mirror him while we're at it. Bring that across, so we've got both those there. And then I'm going to bring in, so if I hover on that middle piece, that'll allow me to bring that onto the center line. So that's going to be really handy. I want that to be 3 mils. And then I'm going to use that mirror again. I'm going to bring that down that way. Good. Mirror again. That one. And grab those two. All right, so I'm going to lock those in. So I'm going to do a dimension from this one to the middle. And once I do one of those, let's just round it out to the 30, just because it's a nice round number. Then the last thing I'll do is let's grab those, and I'm going to make them 12 for the moment. So now I've got my starting point. I can finish that sketch, and there's going to be stuff that I need to do to this later. I might remove some of the material, but at the moment that's good. I'm going to go Shift E or extrude to be able to select that. I want that to go 3 millimeters, and there's my starting platform. What I might do now is I'm going to start one of these side faces here, so I can start then putting my components together over in the assembly and see how that looks. So I'm going to add a sketch, and I'm going to use that face there. Hit normal 2, and I'm going to rotate just so I'm looking at it up and down. Now we can see that I've got the plane there, so I'm going to add my rectangle, and I need my first one there. Then I'm going to start hovering through from that one. We'll bring that up and just go nice big fat square for the moment. So I had that as 130, and I'm going to go up 70 for the moment, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, so we can see I've got that set up. Those are not fixed in, so let's go coincident. So it allows me to select that point and that fixes that in, so everything is tied in nicely. Now, the other things I need to add in here at the moment are my T-slots for those attachments. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to start with a line, make that a construction line, and I want to be able to go to about the middle of that and bring him up. I'm just going to go up 10 for the moment. Now I remember that dimension that I made from there to there, we made at 15. So that's now, if we have a look, is nice and centered on the edge of that line. So now what I need to do is I need to add 2 rectangles. So I'm going to go around that edge. I want 10 high and 3 wide. And then I'm going to grab another rectangle here, which is 5.4 that way and 2.4 that way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make those symmetric to that first line. So that side, middle, that side, middle. So now I've got that. Last dimension I need to include is that one to here, and I want that 6 away. So now if I sort of just pull those out of the way so we can sort of see what we've got, I have nice dimensioned slots. So that's going to be lined up with that hole, which then gives us a point to be able to put our bolt into in the middle of that, and then the screw will go through here. So what I need to do with that one is I need to mirror that across. So let's add our construction line in the middle. So line and Q, and I'm just going to go from center to there, and then I'm going to mirror him across. So there's my mirror line, those pieces there, happy days. So at the moment that's all I've got. I'm going to go let's actually see what I've got over here. So if I have a look at this guy, the fixing screws that I'm going to have are those two there. So I'm going to need 3 mils that are 18 millimeters apart. And if I have a look where they're kind of sitting, at the moment I go one of those to about there. It's about 40 millimeters. So 3 mil, 18 mils apart. Let's drop those in and see how we go. So back into that first sketch, and I'm going to grab 2 of those again, and I'm just going to go, I don't have any of those yet, so I'm going to go 3 on that, and E, so both of those, excellent. And then what I'm going to use is I'm going to make those 2 horizontal, so I want that to go straight, and then we're going to go, so on the bottom edge of this, we're going to go about 37 high. So let's go dimension. And that wants to be 18 from the centers. And then these to there, we're going to say is about 37, and we'll start there. Now, let's just give this let's go 10 in from the front and see how it goes from there. I might need to nudge those around, but let's start there. Okay, so I've got that. Now there was that space that I need here. So if I have a look at how far down that is, about 20 down, I'm just going to add a large circle in the middle of those 2, just so I've got plenty of space. I don't need that for anything else, but go Q in the middle of that. And then I want that to be symmetric with those 2. So symmetric, 1, 2, that one, and then that will center that one. And I want him, I said about 20 down, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so there's the initial point. So we're going to come back and forward out of these 2. So what's a really good habit is actually naming these. So this is going to be my sketch for my side piece. There's my sketch for my base, and then my extrude for my base too. So once it starts getting busy, having those names correct will make your life a whole lot easier. All right, so now I'm going to go extrude that piece, and we want him 3 mils. And notice how it's tried to go on to add. We want this to be a new piece. So I'm going to go tick on that, and then that looks good. So now let's come over to the assembly, and we're going to remove some of these things once, because at the moment I'm going to ignore the breadboard, I'm going to ignore the button, I'm going to ignore, I can leave those for the moment. I'm going to get rid of the wheels just for a second, and I'm going to get rid of him for the moment. So I'm kind of down to the basics, and I'll probably get rid of one side, but we'll start here. I'm going to insert those 2 pieces, and tick, what I might do is I'm going to fix that base and then I'm going to move everything else around that. So see how it's centered nicely over the origin. So right click on him and fix. So now he's locked in, nothing else will move. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab and select all those other pieces that were there. I might actually show the rest and move them at the same time. So everything's kind of staying orientated. So select all of those and we're just going to move those across. Okay, so if we look, he's probably about there. We might want to move those up because I kind of, in my head, I'm going to have those somewhere around there. If we look, that's kind of close to where I had those. So now let's go back and hide those couple other things that we didn't need at the moment. And we'll go forward from there. So I'm going to hide that one because I don't want that one. I need him there. So now I'm going to join that in place. I'm going to use that fasten mate. And I'm going to use that front face and that one there. So now that's locked in. Happy days. But notice it now's moved that. Oh, and I missed that one. So I'm going to go back in and add that before I keep going. So that extrude for our side. Missed out. So I'm going to go double click back on him or hit edit. It missed out on that little piece. Now, that now is included. If I come back over here, I now have that bit now, which is good. So I'm going to go fastened. I'm going to use that center piece there on that rotation. And then I'm going to try and get that same spot where he would attach up there. So that's good there. So now that's kind of where he will sit. And I'm going to bring in that wheel now and have a look at how that fits. So what I'm going to do with that one is I'm going to do a revolute mate for him. Bring him back. And I want that circle there. And kind of in the middle of him there. So if I hold shift on that, I should be able to get to the middle. And then there's that guy. Now, if we have a look at how that's set up at the moment, that's a bit tight on that wheel. So what I might do is I'll bring in that whole width 5 mils and see how we go. Because we want to have a little bit of clearance. So I'm going to come back over to my Part Studio and change that sketch. So N to normal 2. And I'm going to drop that down. Say, let's go 85 and see how we go from there. So tick on that and we can go back to our assembly and we can see that that has now been updated, which is nice. So what I want to be able to do now is I'm going to join those two together. So I'm going to go a fasten mate with that circle. So circles are really nice because they give us that center point really easily. So then that sits there. I'm happy with that, and let's repeat for the other one. So that face, that one, and he locks in. So now if I wanted to and move those around, so let's say I'm going to nudge those back a little bit so they're not overhanging so much. We can go back into here, go to that sketch. Let's go 15 mil and see how that goes now. Tick back in there. And we can see that that's been pushed back because we've used that wheel as well. If I go back another 5, so it's right in, but that's probably pretty close to where we want it. So it's near the front of those wheels. So now that looks good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make another copy of this and add to the other side. So I'm going to insert another part. So we don't really want to be creating another part because they're basically going to always be a duplicate of each other. Because if I made it over here, I'd end up with 2 different parts down here, which we don't want. So that's going to be my side. Because both sides are going to be the same. So now we're going to fasten him in place. So we could use that corner. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that we could do this. So which way did that end up? He ended up going to the middle. Okay. So as long as you line them up the same way and you check it, that's going to end up where we want it. So let's turn that other wheel and other motor in and join those back in as well. So now I'm going to use that fasten mate again on one of those. He's locked in place, that's happy days. And then go to the revolute for that face and that face. So there are plenty of different ways that we could do this same joint, but for this one, I'm happy with that as the process. So that looks pretty good at the moment. Now, what we want to be able to do, and this next part, we're going to use what we call the in-context editing. So if we have a look, it looks like there's a little bit of interference with some of the motor up here. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit this part, but I'm going to edit in context. So the Part Studio, basically, we're going to pull a version of this over here. Now, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to see through this. So I'm going to right click back on this guy, and then there's a make transparent. So I can see through that. Now, if I go normal to here, I can see there's kind of that piece there that I want to be able to do. So I'm going to right click back on this guy. Oh, where is it? That side sketch, edit him. And I'm going to bring in a little rectangle just in here to be able to give that guy space. So if I tick on that, now I've got a nice little cutout for him. I could make that a little bit better now that I'm happy with that. So let's dimension him. Let's go just round it out to 16. I'm going to, because it's always good habits to try and lock your sketches down as you are going. Otherwise, it can get a little bit problematic. Last one, I'll just go a nice 12 square. All right, so now we've got a hole in there, lots of space for him. We've got access to that. That's good. So now there's probably no other things that I need to do with that one for the moment. So if we bring that, so he wasn't happy there. So let's go back over here and see what has happened over there. Now, looking at this, I just had a bit of an investigate. I'm not sure why we showed up, but what I did to solve that, so if we hover over that, it tells us what the error is. I'm not sure why we had problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on him and we get this option of replace that instance. And all I did was then select on here, go back in and select it, and I could have done it, replace all instances of that again. But we can see now he's happy with that and we can continue. So now I've got that in place. What we can do now is I'm going to turn on my, let's go battery pack next. So if we have a look at where that's sitting, and I could probably do the same thing for the wheels in a second. So battery pack, let's keep the weight a little bit closer to the center here. So we've got plenty of space there. Can bring him down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a rectangle cut out of the middle here for him to kind of just sit in there, and we'll see how that goes. So if we have a look at the dimensions, click on that, 45, and what we can even do is from here, right click back on this guy, and we're going to go editing context, and we can see we've got that line there. So I'm going to go back into that side sketch, I'm going to add a rectangle, which, oh, is much too small, so let's bring him back around. Dimension him now. Now, we can see he's 30, so let's just go, if we go 30 there, and then it was about 45, wasn't it? So let's go 40, 45. And from there, I'm going to add some fillets. So we've got a little bit of play in that space there. And I'm going to click off that. So that now gives me the next bit of the puzzle. But probably what I want to do on that sketch is now let's just lock that in a little bit. So down to the bottom, let's just go 15 just to keep it round. And I'm going to go from the center here across. Let's just go 5 from there. Oh. And when that comes up, it's basically telling us that we're trying to define too much. So I deleted one of those, and I'm going to try that again. So we should be able to just go 5 from there, and it is not happy with that because did we have remove him? And I should be able to pull that guy around. So I'm not sure why he was not happy with that. Well, let's just make that lined up there. So I'm going to go coincident onto that. And he's again he's not happy. I'm just going to leave him a little bit free, and I'll explore that later. But best case is we get that neat and tidy as we go. So now I've got that cut out for him. I should be able to then do a mate in to hold him in place. Now if I go back to the assembly, you can see he's kind of sitting fairly happily in place. Now I'm going to go that fasten mate and grab that face and that one there. Now I don't want him all the way through, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the offset, which we haven't used yet. Have a look at that little XYZ mate connector. You can see the Z goes this way, so let's add in. So I'm going to go 5 mils, wrong way. So then minus 10, and how does that look? That probably looks about right. So now I've got him just hanging in the middle there. And that should be pretty good. If I wanted to, I could probably then add some other little pieces around to help fasten him, but I'm going to keep this simple. So now I've got that in place. Let's have a look at where these holes need to be. So I click on those two. I can see the centers at 28. Now, I would always encourage you to try and measure these in real life and don't trust that these will be done perfectly. Now I'm fairly confident I measured these right and drew this up correctly, but it's always good to check. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to edit in context. So there's my piece, and I'm going to go back to my base sketch so we can keep adding details to that one there. And I'm going to add now this one I'm going to make 2.65 with the hope of I can just screw into my MDF, or 2.6 should be fine. I'm going to grab another one over here, make those equal, and then make them symmetric. All right, so then that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to dimension these a little bit. So I wanted that to be 28, so I'm going to go 28 divided by 2, so we can actually use formula in this as well. And I'm going to go dimension, he needs to be, I'm going to go 16, and that should be 18. 18 looks like it's pretty good, so that isn't hanging off the back there. So if I tick on that, and you can see I've got my holes ready to go, I'm going to go back to assembly. And now I'm going to make that fastened, again using one of those holes. ready to go. So that now looks good on there. So now if I have a look at where I'm at, I've got these guys done, I've got those done. Let's see if we can make a little simple bracket for that to sit on. If I have a look at the front, I may need to bring this up just a little bit so that the next part, this guy doesn't overhang. So if I look at the breadboard, I might be able to just have him sitting farther back and it's not a problem. So if he sits somewhere around there, I'm going to bring a little lip up on either side of him. So if I look at the dimensions, he is about 80. So I'm going to go 82 between those two, and that should be okay. So let's go back in, and I'm going to edit this guy in context. Go to the right side. I'm going to edit that sketch. So I can go over here, or I can go edit that side sketch. And I'm going to add a little rectangle. Let's go 5 up is fine. 6 is fine. And then I want another one over here. So again, 6 wide, 5 high. That looks nice. And then what I'd like to do is add a dimension between those two. Let's try that again. Get him out of the way. D between that one. Love it when it works the first time. That side to there. There we go. And what do I say? 82. Which then should give us that. Now, obviously, we could make that a little bit nicer by adding a fillet to that. And I might make that a little bit smaller. So let's bring him down. Just a 3 is good. And we're going to do the same thing to the side over here. So let's go a fillet again there. And where's our line gone? Fillet 1 to 2. 1. And let's actually trim out the middle of that so he doesn't get unhappy with us trying to remove the lines. So fillet again. 1, 2, 1, 2. And we can tick off that. It gives us that nice little curve there. But we've lost our dimension on that 5mm there. Sometimes when you fillet, it will remove pieces like that. And then we're probably going to do a little fillet just on that top one there. And we might go down to 2 for him and 2 for him. So now we've got those in place. The last thing we might do is dimension from that one to there, and we'll just round it to 20. So that's now looking good. So now we've got those little tabs on there, and if we have a look, we've got, let's go and fasten him in place. Let's use that edge and that edge, and then we don't want him sitting so far that way, so let's see it's the X going that way, so I'm going to offset and I want to bring it this way. So I'm going to go, if I go 10 that way, I need to go the other way, so -10 enter. That's a bit far. -7, that looks about, that's fine. So now he's got a little seat on top. That looks good, not interfering with those. All right, so that's now looking good. The last thing I probably want to try and do is add something to the front so that I've got a little angled piece for my front. So if I have a look at my dimensions so far, I've got 130, so I've kind of got 20 mils in front. Then I can bring that nose out and then bring it back out on an angle. So we probably want to make sure that our wheels, we might need to nudge our wheels back a little bit so that they aren't sitting in front. So I'm going to do that in here, and I'm going to go back in and go and edit in context. So there it is. We go normal 2, and we can edit that side sketch, and I'm just going to add in a little bit here. So 20 mils forward is about there, and if we brought that to there, we're going to be cutting it fine. So those wheels, we want to be able to move back a little bit. So where's that dimension there? This guy. So let's go back 15, and that should shift the whole wheelbase back 5 mils, which is kind of what we want to be able to see. So now I've got that extension out there, and I'm going to add in, just like one of these ones, I want to be able to add in one of those over here so that I can attach that front piece to it. So let's go about doing that. I'm going to need to use that aligned rectangle this time. So I'm going to go somewhere about here, bring that out so there's perpendiculars there, that's good. So that's going to be 10 and 3, and then again another one that way, which is 5.4 and 2.4. Add our line through the middle, so Q for that construction through the middle, and we want our symmetric for each of those. Okay, so that looks good. The last dimension there to there wants to be 6. We try that again. So that one there wants to be 6. And why does he want to go all the way up there? Interesting. Okay, so we might make sure that some of these are parallel. He's parallel, and that guy is perpendicular to that. So I should be able to move that. Why is that fixed? Because I haven't controlled that one yet. So that to that, I'm going to go 18, so I've got a little bit of a extension part out here. So that should now have fixed that guy in. We must have some, that one there, horizontal, perpendicular. All right, that should still work for our purposes. And let's bring him from that, let's go from that top to there. Let's just go 50 from the top. So now we've got that one. That should be enough to hold it in place. If we need to, we can always drop another one up a little bit higher. But that gives me a larger piece. I just need to add that onto my extrude. So now that's sitting there nicely. When I go to my assembly, we've got that nicely there ready to go as well. But what we want to be able to do is we need some way to be able to have this guy sitting in here. So if we have a look, we could probably have him sitting somewhere around there. And if we have a cutout, so let's have a look at where that sits. So kind of have him about centered already. And we're going to go in and add some cutouts on this so that when we install these two pieces upright, and we probably do want one more one more bolt up here so it doesn't flex. So we might actually drop that a little bit lower. Bring him down a bit, somewhere around there, and then I'll add another bolt up at the top. Awesome. All right, so let's go back in here. We're going to edit in context. We're going to edit that sketch. Go normal 2. So now we can see where that's sitting. And I'm going to try and hide some of that extra detail that I don't need in this context. But what I can do first is I'm going to go a line, construction line, and go somewhere around here. So his perpendicular is fine. I want that to be perpendicular. There he is. Okay, it doesn't matter the distance at this point. I can just bring him through here. But what I want to be able to do that is now I'm going to mirror, and then I can play with that so I don't have to try and recreate that again. Oh, let's actually mirror correctly. So pick the line and then the pieces. So that's now mirrored. And if I now move that line a little bit, bring him down, I can sort of decide where I want those to be. So now I can, so if we go 30, that looks about right. Nice. I will need to go back in and add that in, but what I want to do first is I'm going to hide some of this extra detail. So those wheels, let's just get out of the way so I can see what's going on. That motor should be okay there. So editing context, and we've still got that sketch. Cool. So we're back in place. Now what I want to be able to do is I'm going to bring in a cut and a little seat in for that on each side. So let's do that now. So I'm going to bring my line, bring him through, and he kind of wants to be somewhere around there. Oh. And I just want to bring that back up. That wants to be a little bit lower. So I probably don't need that like that, but we'll just, this is something that we'll need to probably test on the printout. So cut it out and see how it fits, because we're kind of working a little bit in the blind. So those two, let's go 1.6. This one here, I'm just going to go 0.8. Again, probably don't need that one. I don't think there's anything in line, but maybe we'll give it 2 mils there, just space it out. We can now go vertical. So those two are now in line. Or is it going to coincident allow us to keep that in line? There we go. And then dimension from there to there. Let's go 16, which I know is the height of that one. And then we're going to make sure those are in line. And that dimension, let's go 2.4. And then we can go equal on that edge to that edge. So now, hopefully, that will give us a nice little spot for that to sit. We've got our cutout for that to go. We may want to add in the little triangle in here. So let's go back to that sketch, and we want to add in those bits there to the extrude. Okay, so then we've got that looking good. We can now just go to the assembly. We've got some space there. Now I'm going to go back to my Part Studio just to finish off that last piece here. So I'm going to go to my sketch, add him to that front side, normal 2, and I'm going to add a circle. So I'm going to go hover, you can see I'll get the midpoint, bring that through, and I'm going to go 3. So notice it's tangent to that side, so it's exactly the right spot. And I'm going to go same deal. Well, don't want to pick the center there. Hover up, bring him back. 3 is there. Okay, so that's looking good. Now the only other thing that I probably need to add on this front edge is a little step out tab for reference. So I'm going to go back in, before I keep going with this, into that side sketch and add in a little reference tab. So anytime we're doing laser cutting pieces together, it's much better to be able to reference using a little tab of some sort. So let's go perpendicular out, and it doesn't need to be big, but it just gives us something to refer back to. So I'm going to go 8 on that one. So now dimension that from the bottom, and let's go 8 up. So now that's fixed. We've got our cutout for the hole there. We've got another one here. Now, if I wanted to, I could try and do a little one at the top here. I might actually do that as well. So let's go one more rectangle at the top. Bring him out. So 3 mils out, 6 mils up. And I'm going to go I for coincident and bring that back down in line with that corner. So now extrude that, add him. So now I've got those little reference tabs. I can now go back to my front sketch, edit that, front, and let's get the rest of this done. So I'm going to add a normal rectangle this time, a corner rectangle, to be able to add cutouts for those pieces. That's just there. It's always hard to see sometimes on your reference, so that looks good. All right, so from there, I'm going to bring out a rectangle, go a little bit higher. So let's go 120 is good, and then I'm going to bring those edges out so that we can go right out to the full width. Okay, and then from here, let's get a center reference, which is there. Make that a Q. So now I've got a, where is it? Symmetric, that side to there. And what we probably want to do is I'm going to mirror those cuts and then go back to our assembly and see how that looks. So Shift E, add that, that's 3 millimeters as a new piece. Beautiful. He's not happy with that because he noticed that bit there. We need to add that on. So now we've got our cuts. We've missed that as a mirror, so I need to bring that across as well. So you can see we don't have that quite right. I need to mirror that guy. And that's not quite right either. So let's get that in line with that. That one in line with that. And now that's looking better. Now I've got all the pieces I need. but I still need to update that extrude to not do that bit. So let's reset that, choose that piece. Now that looks better. Let's try that. Solid as a new tick. And then there's my front piece. Awesome. So rename that to be front. All right. So now that's looking better. I'm going to jump back over to my assembly, add my new piece, and just go tick for the moment. So he's in place. Now I need to bring that down a bit lower. So let's bring the wheel so we can kind of see where we want it to bring it down to. So it needs to go at least another 10 or 15 mil low. So let's go edit in context and edit that sketch. And I'm going to pull those down. Let's have a look. That's a bit low. Leave that there. So let's go dimension. I'm going to go just from that bottom tab to there. Let's try 22. So if I have a look from the right, that's not too bad. I could possibly go a touch lower, but I'm going to leave that there for the moment and we can play with that later. The last thing I need to do is I need to add that nice little hole in the middle. So let's go back in, edit that sketch. Normal 2, and I need to be able to get that cut out here. So I'm going to grab 2 holes there. We're going to go equal for each of those. We're going to add a line from each of those. And we're going to go horizontal on those as well so that they're both level. Okay, and if we have a look, dimension those in there. Let's go 26 apart and have a look at how that looks. So that's close to what we need. It might be worth going a little bit larger and bringing it down a bit so that we've got better clearance there. So again, some of this is just a bit of a massage. So I'm going to go dimension on that, and we're going to bring those out to be maybe 19, oh, not 119, 19. And again, let's go a dimension and bring it down just a whisker. Let's bring it down to 15. So now if we play that, have a look from the front, that's pretty good. The last thing I'm going to do is just center those. So I haven't done that one yet. So now I'm going to use that symmetric, take that point, that point, that point, square it up, finish that. And now that is looking pretty good. So I've got a big front face. Now, where I'm going to leave it there as my design. And what you guys are able to do from here is if you take that, you can start tweaking it or playing with it or seeing what you can do to add some other detail to it, because there's obviously quite a bit more that you could do to finalize or lock this, because dimensions wise this should be nicely in it, and we've got quite a bit of play on how we set that up. So the last thing we probably want to be able to do is be able to laser cut this out. So you can see I've got my DXF sitting over here. There's some of these pieces are going to be nice and easy to bring over. So let's start there. So load our drawing. Now I've given you a blank page already. We're going to insert our pages. So start with our base. We want to make sure that's not the front but the top. Drop him on. Now right click on that, show or hide, and we want to hide those auto center marks because otherwise they will cut out as well. So now let's go to the next one. I'm going to add in a side, and we want that to be, and now I'm going to add each side as a left and right so that the cutting marks, oh, come on, show or hide, and then I can Control C, Control V, so or Command C, Command C, Command V, if depending on what you're on. If I double click on him, let's change him to the left, so I get both sides there. And then the last one, we've got a little bit of a problem. So if I start to add my last one, I'm going to go the front, and I go front for that one. Notice how that is not orientated correctly. It's looking at it as if we're on the front. We don't need that one. We need to actually look at it so it's like this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hit N to take normal 2. Over here, I'm going to add a named view, and I'm going to add this for my front face. Hit plus, and now I've got this new face. So if I'm anywhere, I can go back to my front face, and it brings me to that. And now the benefit of that when I come over here is if I double click on that, I can now go change from that one. Let's just update our piece, and I should be able to, I want my front, and it should give me my next piece here. Why are you not giving me that? All right, so because I made that named view in the assembly, I could find it in the assembly. I need to actually create it in my Part Studio as well. So I'm going to go normal to that. I'm going to add the name view again, and I will have access to that. So this is our front face in the parts. So that's there now. So if I come back over to my assembly, my DXF, double click back on him, you'll see now I've got that because I grabbed him from the Part Studio, not from the assembly. So now that's squared up. That's what I want to see. Right click on him, show or hide center marks. And I have each of my pieces ready to be able to send to the laser cutter. So I hope this has been useful to learn a few strategies and ways that you can make your SumoBot. Obviously there's a few more refinements, improvements you can do, but it should be a nice starting base for us to be able to look at what we can do with the laser cutter to develop our SumoBot.